We are live. It is Sunday. It is another Sunday live, and we're making this happen. Hello. Hi, Gordana. How are you?
Hi, Lucas. I'm good. Hello, everyone. How are you?
We are live. I am doing oops. I'm doing well. I'm really excited. I think the more, I've had so many conversations,
Mm,
specifically two, one yesterday and one earlier in the week, all about courage. And people are
mm,
really waking up to what courage is. Do they have courage in
mm,
their own life?
mm.
And so I'm glad we're going to talk about this today because it's a really important topic.
Yes, it's a very important topic because we are going to talk about courage as a path to growth,
Yes.
like how facing your fears actually can lead to some transformation in your life and why this is so. Because
Mm.
if you stay in fear, you stagnate.
Yes.
And
Yes.
maybe this is why the topic of courage is such a big thing today, because there's a lot of fear out there. The frequency of fear is literally permeating everything for us. So of course we want to find some ease from it, but it's also important because I think that we are all tapped into the purpose of our lives, which is to grow spiritually. And you can't
Yes.
grow spiritually unless you explore courage in your life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, it's all the best movies, I think all the movies that are most iconic in the world all
Mm,
show the hero
mhm,
exuding courage at some point, and that's what makes them the hero. And we read books, we watch movies, we hear these stories of courage, but
mm,
for some reason, even though it's appealing to consume and
mhm,
observe, it seems that it's been sold as someone else or
mhm,
something else versus where is it inside all of us that
mm,
the only way for us to grow is to face our fear in whatever regard that is. And growth comes
mhm,
from that going back in. We've said this so many times, and it's a popular saying that the only way out
mm,
is through, but the only way through is with courage to get out.
mhm,
And
mhm.
that's where I think as people are waking up is do they have courage?
Yeah, everybody has courage. It's an inbuilt structure. It's an inbuilt action within us. There is
Mm,
no one human that hasn't have courage.
right.
It takes courage to take your first step as a baby.
Mm,
No one teaches you this. It's an urge. You need to stand up and you tap into courage. It's
yeah.
like an archetype. You just fall into it. It's not something that you acquire. It's something that is inherent with each and every one of us. So of course, we don't need to learn it. We just need to be brave enough to explore it.
Mm,
And I think that when you mention, heroes, what we are seeing is we are seeing characters with bravery. They act fearlessly. They don't see the fear. But what we're going to talk about is a more subtle thing, which is more connected to courage, because courage, you have to do it in
mm,
spite of fear.
yeah. Yeah.
And it's in the small acts every single day that this courage is that you need to tap into the courage.
Mm,
The courage to say no to something that you're afraid to say no to. The courage to look at your own shadow, even though you're afraid to look at it.
mm,
If you allow fear to stop you from doing it, you sit in shadows.
yeah.
It's darkness. So courage is a way to reach light.
Mm,
And so this is why I think it's a big, big topic today to talk about courage and to understand what courage is. It's not about, the big acts as in the movies.
yeah.
It's what goes on in your head, how you manage yourself, you know how I always say that we are all here to transform negative energy into a positive manifestation.
Mhm.
Between negative energy and a positive manifestation lies courage. And
Mm,
it can come in big, big happenings and small, small whisperings, but it has to go through courage. You
yeah.
have to be courageous enough to acknowledge a negative energy,
Yeah.
face it, transform it within you so that it can become a positive manifestation for
Mm.
you.
Yeah.
And courage is central to this. You can't do that unless you have courage. I think that we all have this purpose here to transform negative energy into a positive manifestation. On earth, we have both positive and negative energies.
Mm.
And the negative energies they are here to stay. You cannot remove them. The
Yeah.
only way is to transform them within you. And that is where you feel the power. That is where courage plays a big role. So
Mm.
that you know that you can handle anything that comes towards you.
Right.
And this is why you need to tap into courage, not learn how to do it, tap into it because you already have it there.
Mm. I think too, courage is such we have to first, I think, reclaim vision, a vision for who we
Mm-hmm.
are, who we want to be, where we want to go,
Mm-hmm.
what this life is that we want. And that's really the North Star that guides courage
Mm-hmm.
to come through. Because if we don't have a vision for who we are, we talk about courage as a path of growth, but growth into what? Growth into becoming the fullest expression of ourselves, the fullest
Mm-hmm.
embodiment of light and truth and goodness and beauty without the constraint of our past, our parents, friends, society, authorities that don't align with who we are. But when we really do hold that vision, and then we are able to keep it in the forefront of our mind, courage is the step towards that vision, that small step in every, like you're saying, in every decision. It's a step,
Mm-hmm.
it's a step, it's a step.
Yeah, it's an act to know what voice to listen to.
Mm,
And then it roots you in stability when you know how to listen to the right voice.
yeah.
You know, I looked up the word courage, and its roots is the Latin word for heart, core.
Mm,
So courage comes from heart. And originally it meant to speak one's mind by telling one's heart.
wow.
And why are we so afraid today? Because if you speak your mind, you can be ostracized.
Yeah.
That's one of the worst things that can happen to a human being, which is a social being.
Yes.
So you're left alone if you say what you mean. So we adapt, we try to conform, fit in,
Yeah.
and that is how we learn not to speak our truth. And I'm
Mm,
not saying, open your mouth and say whatever you want, even if you're hurting people, but the connection between mind and heart
yeah.
is really important. Unless you can be very highly intellectual and yet not courageous.
Mm,
Courageous means to be able to connect to your heart, meaning connect to truth, to source, and then speak your truth. That
mm,
is a courageous act. And I love how it actually meant to speak one's mind by telling all one's heart,
yeah. Yeah.
which means that you need to know your source.
Yes.
Your heart will always speak from source. And this is also where fear resides. You can feel
Mm,
the fear in your heart, feeling it. Fear comes from mind down to your heart.
mm.
Courage comes from heart up to your mind.
Yeah, that's
It's a
good. That's
it's
good.
an you
Yeah.
see.
Yeah, that's
So
good.
unless you're connected to your heart, if you're too afraid to connect to your heart, then know that fear is driving you. As soon
Mm,
as you start connecting to your heart and listening to what your heart is saying, then you can act accordingly. And in order
mm.
to act, you need your mind.
Yes. Yes.
So it's just a different direction from in that path, so to speak.
It's interesting as I look back in my life of different times where I felt courage, I took courageous steps. It felt
Mhm,
like these courageous steps were forks in the road.
mhm,
Like I was at a point of decision whether I was going to stay true to myself and speak my truth and honor myself, or I was going to continue down the path of playing small, being the people pleaser, conforming to the mold that was set before me. And every time I chose myself, without, I have zero regret for every time. I have never
Mhm.
regretted one time choosing myself, but I also knew when I choose this, when I step into this, when I do this, it will never be
Mhm.
the same. I will never be the
Mhm.
same. My life's never going to be the same. There's so many
Mhm.
times I've come to these forks in the road,
Mhm.
and I think we're all presented every one of these steps towards our heart overriding our mind is a little
Mhm.
step choosing away from
Mhm.
the prescribed path that others have set before our parents, society,
Mhm.
religion, culture,
Mhm.
politics, whatever it is.
Mhm.
And we get to break away every time we choose courage.
Mhm. Without a doubt, every single time it you never fail in that because courage is a part of your path, of your life path. It is a part of it. And unless you tap into it, you will be astray. You will not
Right.
be on the right path for you.
Right.
Now, when you say speak your truth,
Mm.
people will say, but I am speaking my truth. Like I do say the truth. You have to understand what truth is before you can say, I do tell the truth. The
Mm.
truth, this is going to sound really dramatic, but the truth is always connected to is love, unconditional love. That is the truth. Everything else is some kind of humanly created illusion in
Yeah.
this world.
Yeah.
So, unless you are speaking from that high truth, then you don't need to say anything. It's the same thing when you speak to yourself. It's not about just how you communicate with others.
Yeah.
Courage has very much to do with how you communicate with yourself. If you are able to tell yourself the truth, and by this, I'm not saying, well, you're an idiot. You don't know how to do this.
Right.
Everyone is
Right.
much better than you. That is not the truth.
Right.
That might sound like the truth coming from your mind because you can see the evidence out there. But there
Mm.
is no such truth. The truth is that you are valuable, that
Mm.
you are alive, that you are unique, and that you are an expression coming from God's mind.
Yes. Yes.
We all are.
Yes.
Some of us live in a deeper illusion than others, and that is okay. The truth is to be able to see that without
Mm.
hurting the others. And the same thing goes when you speak to yourself. If your thoughts are degrading, if you're telling yourself how bad you are, how no value you have, then this is not the truth, and you are not supposed to act on that.
Mm.
The courageous thing is to sit in silence and say, okay, so who am I? And
Yeah.
then finding the truth, being, I am a valuable being in this world.
Mm.
That is the truth. And it takes courage to sit still and listen to this. Your
Yeah.
mind and ego will tell you, those are lies. There's evidence out there, material, physical, empirical evidence that you are no good at all. But
Mm.
that is not the truth because here's the thing. And you know that I am not affiliated to any religion,
Yeah.
but God does not care who you were. God only cares who you are right now and what
Mm.
you're going to do. So
Yes.
if you keep lying to yourself, allowing the mind to tell you that you're not valuable, this is where you need the courage to transform that negative energy into a positive manifestation, being connecting to your own truth. That's a
Mm.
positive manifestation.
Yes. Yes.
And everything else would be a habitual way of dealing with negative energy coming towards you. Either it comes
Yes.
from outside or from your own mind, your habitual mind, whatever it is, your past, whatever it is. It's still a negative energy coming towards you. And your job is to sit there, listen to it, and not acknowledge it as truth,
Mm.
because you know that your truth can never be anything that is negative about you.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it's so true when it comes to our memories as well. And like you're saying, that they come towards us. Most of us have to find the courage to face our memories and
Mhm.
rewrite them and undo the past of how they hold us
Exactly.
back more than a fear of what's going to happen in the future. I think most of the fear is
Mhm.
an imprint from the
Habitual.
memories. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's habitual, like you're saying. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So courage is to see this, acknowledge who you are in the now moment, which is stillness.
Mm,
And then saying, okay, so what can I learn from this?
mm,
That is a courageous act to say, what can I learn from this? If
yeah,
you had hell in your past,
yeah,
people being mean to you, treating you like nothing, the courageous act is to sit in stillness and say, what can I learn from this?
mm,
What can you learn from this? Well, you're alive. You're a strong one because you're still alive and you're
right.
breathing and you're looking at your past and you have hope about your future because you want to learn something. You
Mm,
want to ease your pain. That is courageous. All of these things are really courageous to sit in
yes,
them.
yes,
If you allow yourself to habitually go into this, oh my God, this is so painful, I can't go there. It's too hard for me. And then you continue to stay in your victimhood.
right,
It takes courage to say no to victimhood within you
right.
if it's from the past. It really does take courage to say so because, again, ego will start trembling with fear because you're changing your identity. And
Mm,
ego does not love, does not like, does not want to change identity. It wants to stay the same.
mm,
Ego's job is to hold your identity together. And when
yes,
you, your higher self, starts waking up and saying, wait, I want to change, this is too much pain, I want to change this. Ego sets in and says, no, don't do that. This is too painful. Don't go back there. That is where courage is needed to say, okay, I
right.
hear you, ego. I know it's painful, but I need to see this. I need to watch this because there's something for me to learn. And when
Mm,
I learn it, it will be easier for me.
mm,
That is what courage to me is. Of course, the bravery and all that, it's beautiful to watch it and it's inspiring. And we all want to, Superman. I mean, we love to see Superman save everyone,
yeah,
courageous, brave, beautiful being that loves everyone and wants to save them. We all want to be Superman.
right.
But we're talking about the subtle, courageous acts of everyday life.
Mm, yeah, yeah. In my TED talk, I redefine the word vulnerability and I say,
Yeah.
I reject the notion that vulnerability is being exposed to pain or weakness or something that is not strong. That I define vulnerability as having the courage to experience love in its purest form.
Mhm.
And it's like that's ultimately what this whole thing is, to find the courage to
Mhm.
experience love in its purest form. It takes a decision to say, I'm going to
Yes.
drop everything. And I don't, this may sound dramatic, but I really believe that we have to be willing essentially to die to
Mhm.
live. There is this dichotomy of we're so afraid what's going to happen. We have to jump that off that cliff. We have to take that step, and then the stone will appear as
Mhm.
what's the movie Indiana Jones and Search for the
Mhm.
Holy Grail? He steps, and
Mhm.
then the stone appears. Steps, and then the stone appears.
Mhm.
That's how courage works. When we take that courageous step and don't let
Mhm.
the fear of death or fear of failure or whatever,
Mhm.
fear of not being accepted, fear of not fitting in,
Mhm.
whatever that is, when we let that rule us, we can't go from where we are to where we want to be, the vision that we
Mhm.
have for ourselves. But when we do
Mhm.
say, even if it costs me everything, I'm going to choose
Mhm.
myself. That's what I mean, that fork in the road. You can never go back, and you will
Mhm.
never have I believe no one will regret ever
Mhm.
taking courageous steps in their life, choosing themselves, choosing their own heart,
Mhm.
and deconditioning themselves or
Mhm.
unconditioning all the past traumas and belief systems and structures of
Mhm.
anything from our home life to religion to society to governments to any system of control. If we don't choose it for ourselves, we have to face it and say, is this the best for me or not? And if it's not,
Mhm.
we let it go and we step towards where we want to
Mhm.
go.
Yeah, when you're describing we have to die before we can do this, well, we are eternal beings, so there
Mm,
is no death. It's
yeah.
only ego that will feel like it's dying, because if you change your identity, and I'm not saying changing everything, but changing something in your identity, going from victim to victor,
Yeah.
that feels like death to ego because it's out of control. It doesn't know how to, contain your identity. So it feels like death, but it's not real death.
Yeah.
It's just a temporary shift, which it gives fear to ego in a way, and that is what you're feeling. Your soul does knows that you cannot die.
Mm.
You're eternal, so it doesn't matter. You can
Yeah.
shift and change. It's the identity that is threatened because ego holds identity.
Mm.
But you, the stillness, the observer, is still there all the time. And, for me, it's like realizing that breath connects you to that truth. If you sit in stillness and you breathe in and breathe out, in the now moment, all is good.
Mm.
Regardless of where you are, breathing in and out and connecting to that is to connect to truth. It will always tell you what the truth is. Just the breath. And this is also connected to the brain. When you oxygenate your body, give your brain its food, oxygen, it will not lock you into fear because it will interpret this as, okay, there is no fear here.
Mm.
And it will send frequencies to your heart. It's okay. You can feel whatever you feel because there is no fear here. And that's how you open your heart. So, starting with a physical thing like breathing in and out and connecting to that truth that all is good
Mm.
can help you open your heart. That is courage. We were talking about heart sending frequencies back to your brain. You can hijack that by oxygenating yourself and sending frequencies from your brain down to your heart and saying it's all good. You can
Mm.
also do so that if you touch your heart with your hand, you remind your brain that there is a heart here,
Mm.
and it starts listening to it. You start listening to it. So there are small things you can do to tap into that bravery that we're talking about, to tap into the connection with your heart. That
Right.
is what the bravery I think we're exploring today is about.
Yeah. I'll just share a couple stories and parts of the journey that I've gone on where I used to be a prolific people pleaser. I mean, I would, if someone said jump 10 feet, I would jump 10 feet. And they said jump 11 feet, I would just give literally everything. And it all stemmed from growing up in this abuse, but also desiring to be loved so deeply that I would literally do anything just to get a glimpse of being
Mm,
acknowledged,
mm.
and
Seen.
seen.
Mm, mm,
Um, and what's wild is I was so unconscious of it. I mean, it was just so I
mhm.
outworked everyone. I always would. I worked so hard when I had my advertising agency. I ended up in the hospital twice. I collapsed, and I mean, I was
Mm,
just out of control. But not out of control in that I was not an intelligent, smart, well-functioning, person, author, speaker, family of three kids and a wife. It was out of control of I didn't know. I was looking everywhere outside of myself instead of looking inside myself. And it took finally me getting to the place where I wanted to be free more than I wanted to fit in. And that was a very
yes.
pivotal transformational moment in my life because I had gone into religion so deeply
Mm,
trying to understand what is the system and why is a why are words professed but the feeling not there? Why are
mm,
ideals expounded upon and the results still left me in pain? I couldn't figure it out. So I went on this journey, and it was, and I think everyone goes through this because this is a human experience to different degrees of intensity perhaps, but everyone comes to this place of saying, did I choose me? Like, did I
Mm-hmm.
choose to be this person? Did I choose to work so hard and collapse and go to the hospital and be, I didn't, I never chose that. I
Mm-hmm.
just was defaulted on that track and went as fast as the track led that train. And it was scary to say, I don't choose that anymore. I don't want that
Mm-hmm.
anymore. I don't want your systems. I don't want your doctrines. I don't want your denominations. I don't want anything. And I would leave it all just to
Mm-hmm.
have a moment
Freedom.
in peace and knowing who I am. What do I think? What are my experiences? Not what are these stories passed on from one generation to the next generation, the next generation, the next generation. What's my experience? And my
Mm-hmm.
experience, if I was honest with myself, was all those stories did not bring any transformation in my life. All
Mm-hmm.
the expectations and all the working hard and all the people pleasing didn't bring one night of good sleep in my life. It wasn't until I finally said, I just dropped the walls. Like I choose me
Mm-hmm.
over being accepted by people who are never going to love me the way I didn't even know I could love myself at that point. It was just I knew that they couldn't love me the way I needed to be
Mm-hmm.
loved. That system would never love me the way I needed to be loved. Those
Mm-hmm.
doctrines and all the thousands of books and all
Mm-hmm.
everything can never love me the way I needed to be loved. And once I was done with that, that was where I found the courage to really choose my path.
Mm-hmm.
Thus saith not, Christianity is thus saith the Lord. How about thus saith Lucas for my own life?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And like what a novel concept.
Mm-hmm.
Um, And I feel like many get to that place where they're at this crossroads and fear is going to keep them thinking that they're accepted, but courage says,
Mm-hmm.
override that mind and go and choose. That's ultimately how I grew. And that's where my hope is, my desire for every person listening to this or all around the world is we just
Mm-hmm.
choose ourselves. And how
Mm-hmm.
incredible a day. Like I could see the world celebrating freedom and having this great dance party. It's just like we did
Mm-hmm.
it. We chose ourselves. We chose love. We chose courage. We chose soul over
Mm-hmm.
the machine.
Yeah, I think we do this in private, Lucas.
Mm,
If we think that we're going to dance on the streets and everybody is going to wake up in the same way, then that's not happening. We
mm,
have to find joy in every single personal, courageous, everyday act that we do,
yeah.
every single one of them. And that's how life becomes easier for us, but also for others. Because when you are courageous enough to face your demons, to face your fears, to face your shadows, and it's not just about being courageous enough, it's about being awake enough to
Mm,
do that, then everybody that stands in your frequency will feel the same thing and
mm,
they will benefit from it. From one way or the other, they will benefit from it. So it doesn't
mm.
mean that everybody wakes up and we all live like every fairy tale happily ever after. As long as we are in a human
Totally.
form, our
Yeah.
purpose will still be to transform negative energy into a positive manifestation. What we're talking
Mm,
about here is to make it easier to do this transformation. The
yeah.
negative energy is not going anywhere. It is here on
Yeah.
Earth. Half of the energy is negative, and we
Yeah.
have to deal with it. Now, knowing how to deal with it makes life easier. When
Mm,
you're younger and you have all these belief systems, going back and forth through you, you don't know how to deal with it, and
yeah.
everything feels like a blow.
Yes.
It is when you start, when you stop and you wake up and say, okay, so I do not feel good right now. What can I do to make myself feel better?
Mm,
And not outsource the savior to the outside, not
yeah.
finding someone out
Yes.
there, being
Yes.
here, as you say.
Yes.
This is what Lucas wants.
Yes.
Being present enough to do that. You know, I was writing down notes before our Sunday live, and I think that maybe if I can read my notes for you here, you will, it connects to this. I wrote what courage is.
Mm,
So, courage is recognizing fear and acting in spite of it. And to do this is to change the manifestation into a conscious one instead of an unconscious one
mm,
based on fear. Now, when you say, I didn't know how to do this, is because your life seems to happen to you.
yes.
The truth is, it happens through you. And standing there and saying, wait a minute, this doesn't make me happy, you're halfway there. You realize that this is happening through me. And if it's
Mm,
happening through me, then I have some control over this.
so good.
What is the control? And the control is I can be courageous, I can choose my path. And when you
Yes.
start thinking, I can choose, then you know how to transform this negative energy coming towards you because you know how to choose. That is one part of the courageous acts,
Mm,
to know what to choose. And then the next thing was that courage is to align with your source. Courage is to wake up from spiritual slumber. Courage is to become conscious of your creation. You become a conscious creator when you tap into courage. It's
mm,
like a child wanting to walk and it needs help. And then when it starts walking, it becomes the conscious creator of its own movement.
mm,
It's the same thing. So this is why you have to become conscious first and then see the choice,
yes.
and your creation becomes conscious. As soon as you see the choice, you can choose not to feel the fear. You can choose to walk through the fear. You can choose to see it and do it anyway. It's a choice you have
Mm,
to make. And I talk about courage is to recognize your true path and purpose in physical life,
mm,
knowing that there is a negative energy that you need to transform into a positive manifestation. As long as you have this as a truth, you
right.
will know how to deal with this because the knowingness of this roots you in your source. Your
Mm,
job is to transform this into a positive manifestation.
yeah.
I can give you an example of a transformation. If my son, when he was little, he would disturb me. He would run around and be, just disturb me. If I take this negative energy coming from him and I scold him or I am angry at him, I amplify the negative energy and I hurt my child with this. If I breathe and I stop and I say, okay, so what is happening here?
Mm,
I'm already halfway to transforming that negative energy into a positive manifestation, halfway. And then I would say, okay, so he's 3 years old. I'm sitting here trying to work. Maybe I would benefit from playing with him. Maybe that is what he needs right now. I
mm,
can do this later. And
yeah.
then I go and play with my child, and he is satisfied. I'm satisfied, and I can continue my work. Now, I turn that negative energy, which wasn't negative from the beginning, it was my interpretation of it
Mm,
that made it negative because it disturbed my plan.
mm,
His plan was different. Our plans met,
yeah.
we turned it into a positive manifestation, and then everybody is basking in the positive energy of
Right.
this.
Right.
It could have been totally different. It would have been like, put him into bed, he's crying, I'm trying to do my work, it's negative energy everywhere,
Mm,
amplified. What we're talking about is to transform.
yes.
And
Yes.
that's when you tap into the divine part of you, when you can see how you can transform this negative energy into something. Sometimes it doesn't work. We're human. It's okay.
Yeah.
Leave it at that. Surrender, let go, forgive, try again, like a
Mm,
child trying to learn how to walk.
mm, so good. That's so good.
Courage, that's all
Yes.
it is. It takes courage to stop and not to act habitually.
Yeah, that's right. It takes courage not to do as much as it does to do. Yes.
Yes, exactly. And you have 4 children, so you know exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah,
one more thing that I wrote down, which is we never connect these two, like courage and health.
Mm.
But courage is to actively choose health
Hmm.
before fear, ego, negative beliefs, and low frequencies, because a low frequency is harmful to your body. And
Mm.
you have the chance to choose. I mean, you can eat healthy, you can exercise, but if your mind is feeding you with negative energies, then that is annihilating everything that you're doing with your body.
Yeah, yeah.
The frequency that you're standing in is the information that your cells tap into.
Mm.
So, courageous to be courageous enough to say, no, wait a minute, this is too painful. This is suffering. I can choose not to suffer. I can't choose not to feel the pain because it's there, but I can choose not to suffer and dwell in it for too long. That
Right,
is a courageous act.
right.
It's a choice, and you have to be courageous enough to say this. It's
Mm.
easier to just fall into it and say, okay, I give up.
Mm.
You know, fear makes you give up truth, courage makes you surrender to truth.
Mm.
Fear makes you give up truth, courage makes you surrender to truth.
Mm.
That's why it's so extremely
Mm.
important, and it's in the small doses, the
Yeah,
everyday small doses
yeah.
that creates the life path.
I feel there is this sense, even those watching, there is this sense that people are going to start choosing courage at
Yeah.
um a greater pace. These conversations that I've had earlier this week,
Mm.
I just sense it that, and maybe this is what the Great Awakening is all over the world. That yeah, we might not be dancing, although that would be fun,
I
all at
know.
once around the world, but
Yeah.
it's these little celebrations of
Hmm.
in their inner celebrations. They can be outward expressions, but joy also is a byproduct of courage.
Yes, absolutely.
Self-love is a byproduct of courage.
Yes. It's the frequency. It lives there. Joy lives
Yes.
there. But
Yes.
if you see courage as this subtle thing, for instance, if you walk by someone, it takes courage to smile because you can be
Mm,
rejected. There is
yeah.
a fear of rejection. So you have to be courageous enough to smile. And
Yeah.
you have to be strong enough to take a rejection there. That is why there is courage involved in this. Every time you smile at someone and they don't smile back at you, by the way, they almost always smile back at you.
Mm,
Almost always. And the ones that don't smile back at you, they're not vibing on your frequency and they're not your tribe anyway.
yeah.
So it
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
Right.
But just the courage it takes to smile. A child is extremely courageous because it smiles at everyone.
Yeah.
It's a natural way of being. And for you to remind someone of their natural way of being by sending them a smile or a glance or just I see you,
Mm,
thinking the thought, I see you, I can see your pain, for instance, without saying it, you can send that frequency out. That's a courageous act.
right. So good.
Doesn't have to be Superman,
Yeah.
although
Right.
it's nice, but
Exactly.
it can be small, 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 small things.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
seeing a little child and smiling back at it, or just being in a good frequency is a courageous act.
Mm,
In our world today, the way it is a courageous act to stay in a good frequency when you walk outside.
yes. That's right. Well, speaking of courage,
Yes.
I think it's a courageous act to take the steps to help ourselves and do the transformational work. And we have this course
Yes.
out, Undo Your
Yes.
Past. And if you and everyone watching, if you go to undoyourpast.com,
Mhm.
Gordana and I worked a long time on this course. This is
Yes.
not
Yes.
a buy a course and have this is deep transformational as if we were there with you, as we thought,
Mhm.
what could we do that was online, but as close to us being in person with them and leading them through this.
Yes.
And so this course is incredible. Key memories, undo your past, rewrite your future. And if you go to undoyourpast.com, you can find it there. And I just encourage everyone to take that courageous step to choose yourself in these moments. And you're not alone. This is the beautiful thing. It feels
Yes.
like we're alone when we're on this other path of fear, but when we step in courage, we're like, man, there's so many. It's how you and I met. It's how we've met
Yes.
all these beautiful souls all around the world, and they're the
Yes.
courageous ones. And we all need some support. Just
Hmm.
like we can't do surgery on ourselves, we can't sometimes get to that inner
Hmm.
blockage without some sort of external person helping us. And this course is doing
Hmm.
that. So
Hmm.
I encourage everyone to
Yes.
sign up for it.
Yes. Thank you for sharing that, Lucas. I am so proud of that course too. So
Mhm.
please go to undoyourpast.com.
Yes. Yes. Well, this is beautiful. I love you. Thank you for another great Sunday Live. Everyone, thank you, Suresh. Thanks for being in the chat this morning. And we will see everyone next Sunday.
Yes, we will. Bye.